Dear guests here in Cinema Urania and all of you watching us via computer, TV or any other device, welcome to the promotion, presentation and discussion about the new book of a well-known writer, political commentator and public intellectual Ece Temelkuran. She was born in Izmir in Turkey, but for the last few years living in Zagreb. So, dear Ece, thank you for being together with us here in Zagreb.
Thank you, Hrvoje. I'm so pleased to be with you first, and then to be with real people. And I'm so happy I wore shoes for the first time in, more than a year.
Okay, well, I will start this discussion about your book with one maybe strange question for you, but. When I, as a historian, am writing books or columns, my goal is to educate, to inform, to help my readers in dealing with the past and maybe more with the present. So it's in a way my dialogue with them. While reading your book, it seemed to me that the goal of your writing is very often dialogue with yourself. Since you were writing this book during pandemic, it seemed you used your book as a kind of contemplation. So yes, you are suggesting some solutions or choices or advising readers, but at the same time, I think like you are questioning your suggestions and solutions. Am I right?
True. I can say that it is correct, actually. While you were asking, I was thinking, why am I doing that? Or am I doing that to start with? I think I'm talking to myself, but then if I can talk to myself properly, it means that I can talk to anybody. This is, of course, this statement stands upon the assumption that humans have something in common. All humans have something in common. But also, I was thinking, you're a historian, your lecture, and don't mind me saying, you're a man, I'm a woman. So my language might be, a little bit more personal because of that as well, or more self-questioning. On the other hand, the other day, a reader of the book said, when I was reading the book, I felt like you're sitting next to me and you're reading it to me. So I think a writer finds it's her or his voice through talking to him or herself anyway. And, when that voice is, let's say, mature enough, that voice can be the voice of humankind, or one of the voices of humankind.
Okay. Yeah. Choose Hope Over Fate is the title of the first book.
Choose Faith Over Hope.
Choose Faith Over Hope. Title of the first book chapter. So let's talk about the hope. Is it easier today not having a hope, but to indulge, to be bystander and not active participant in today's world?
Well, in order to explain hope, what I think about hope, I think I have to explain something else first. I write books, as an answer to a question. And all the books, especially the last 3 books that I published, are linked to each other. Like literally linked to each other. I published in 2016, Turkey, The Insane and Melancholy. And while I was giving speeches about that book, there was, I was talking about the perils that Turkey is going through, the troubles that we are facing, and so on. And, I remember in London, a woman asking me, bringing her hands together, like, so what can we do for you? And then that question and the intimidation that I felt from that question gave way to, How to Lose a Country. I wrote How to Lose a Country because of that question. That's why that question is in the beginning of that book. And the answer was, no, what can I do for you? Because you're going to face what we faced in Turkey in, a few years, which happened at the end. And after How to Lose a Country, I again gave speeches in several countries, and the recurring question was, so where is hope? And I was annoyed with this question as well. So I wrote this book. So it's not a coincidence that it is the first chapter. It is the reason of the book, actually. And, you know, each time I faced the question, I was asking back, what if there is no hope? Or, same again, what if there is hope? I think the answer to this question, or either answer, yes or no, even if there is hope or not, the action that will follow wouldn't change. Because what if there is no hope? You're going to go home and, you know, drink a glass of wine. What if there is hope? Probably you're going to go home and drink a glass of wine again. So hope cannot be the fundamental emotion or, you know, human condition that would create action. And hope sometimes, especially nowadays, is rarely present. It's very scarce. So we cannot build our morality, our view of the world, our actions on the presence or the absence of hope. That's why I thought there must be another word that we have to, you know, lean on, or we have to take, you know, strength from, energy from. And I thought that would be faith, which is, you know, quite a dangerous word. But I thought faith, the questioning of...
But not religious.
No, not at all. It's like a faith in humankind. So I thought the word faith should replace the word hope in order us to reimagine our actions again and to energize the political action again.
So, but my question was also, what about today's world and being bystander or active participant? What do you think? Is it easier to be, or do active participants need more hope or more faith?
Faith.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why, you know, I said very clearly choose faith over hope, because hope is too fragile a word for these harsh times. This is one reason. And the second thing is, I think, you know, especially after the 1970s, after neoliberalism took over the world with its tentacles in culture, in social life, in our individual lives, I think we, you know, gradually started to lose faith, our faith in humankind. That is why maybe when we look at the documentaries from 1970s, people look very naive to us, because they are talking about love, they're talking about humans, they're talking about internationalism and so on. But now these words sound very naive to us. But the problem is not with the words. The problem is with our ears that have been contaminated by this dominant ideology for such a long time.
Yeah, another quote from your book: "Are humans rotten and therefore redundant? That makes us lose our faith in mankind." So, is it maybe a good point to ask ourselves, do we expect too much from mankind? Maybe it can be better than it is right now.
There is.
What's the base for your hope?
I don't
and your
have
faith?
Faith. I have faith. The base for my faith comes from my attitude towards reality.
In Turkey?
Everywhere.
Okay.
You know, global reality or human reality. When we see through the lens of social media, when we see today's reality from the lens of social media, we see a different picture of humankind, which is hardly correct. It hardly, you know, reflects the reality of humankind, because our communication sphere is designed through such algorithms that it initiates anger and it initiates the outrageous picture. It advertises the outrageous picture of the humans, because outrageous is always more spectacular. Therefore, for social media companies, it's more profitable. Whereas when you look at reality close enough, when you're in it actually, you see that humans do not act as they have been represented by these social media, companies, or by Hollywood movies. I mean, like, in all these apocalyptic movies, It's like the disaster happens, and next thing you know, it's dog eat dog. You know, men eat men. You know, cannibalism. People are killing each other and so on. And we are going through such an apocalyptic disaster at the moment, and nobody is killing each other. I'm like, people are very, you know, in a most meek maybe, but they are trying to survive, and they're trying to survive together. So my faith in humankind comes from the fact that reality is better than it is represented.
Yeah, but history didn't show us
Yeah.
the opposite, because before social media, before zombie movies, world was not as you is presenting right now. A lot of wars, a lot of war crimes, a lot of atrocities all around the world before social media. So I'm really pleased to hear you talking about the faith in humankind. But as a historian, I doubt where can you see it in the history?
Well, I'm seeing it in you, actually,
Okay.
and in me, because you are part of that history. I am as well part of that history. All these people are. History is not happening outside us, so we are included in it, and we are, as part of it, we are telling the truth. We're talking about the atrocities, we're talking about genocides, you know, war crimes, and so on and so forth. So it is not all bad and we are outside of it, but we are included in that reality, which is, yes, I know it's not unicorns and, you know, heart, but it is also not completely bad. But of course, you are right, and I've been writing about that, and your work is, you know, on that. The human atrocities is such, you know, have been committed in such a spectacular way that it cannot be erased from the reality, with this reality. That's sure. That is a fact.
Okay. You're quoting Iranian actress when one journalist asked her if she has a hope for her country in resisting Islamic totalitarianism, and she answered, human nature is to be free, so Iran will be free. Is human nature to be free? Should we maybe discuss about the definition of freedom? What is freedom for one person in Iran, in Turkey, or in Denmark? My point is, are we sometimes trying, we European, to impose our vision of freedom to people living in different cultures? So you're coming from Turkey, now you're living in Croatia, but you were traveling and living all around the world. What's your definition of freedom, and is it really unique in reality in the world we are living in?
Okay, there are, as you know, so many layers to that question. And of course, Eurocentric view of any concept is monopolized, you know, by Europeans, and of course they have been trying to advertise it as the only truth and so on. But going back to the first question, is human nature free? No, I don't think so. I don't attribute these amazing, you know, concepts to human nature. I don't need to attribute those amazing concepts. I do not have to have high expectations from humankind to believe in humankind. And that, you know, in the, you know, following lines, actually, I talk about that in the book. But freedom, for me, is to realize myself fully, of course, and to have no boundaries or no thresholds in the process of realizing myself as an individual. But I'm not sure if we have to define freedom as on individualistic level, you know, and this is a very long topic, but yeah, freedom, the negative understanding of freedom, which is very much, you know, European thing, is, I think, yeah, it is a very long topic. Now I'm thinking it's a very long story.
Yeah, because sometimes we are shocked with definition of freedom for somebody not only in I don't know, in Asia or in Africa, but somewhere in Europe, in Russia, for example. But of course, it's always a point of discussion with who are we talking, and is that person free to speak about the freedom? So,
well, I came from a country where I felt not very much free. My decisions were based upon fears, I noticed, rather than my true intentions or my ideas. So when you speak about freedom, or the lack of it for that matter, I of course think of before 2016, especially during the coup attempt and right after the coup attempt, where the political climate of Turkey has become extremely difficult. But then I came here, and now I'm thinking, did I come here to be free? No, I didn't come here to be free. And to be completely honest, and this might sound strange to you, I felt like I shouldn't say the things that I couldn't have said in Turkey just because I'm outside Turkey. Because I felt morally it is kind of a failure, because I have friends there who cannot say those words because of their fears. And if somebody would think that I am so brave to say these things, I would find myself morally failed. So I decided not to say the things that I couldn't have said in Turkey here. So yeah. So who is oppressing my, who is taking away my freedom from me now? I am doing it. So that's why I said it has so many layers, this question of freedom. And I do not think we can be free in the philosophical level anyway.
Okay. Choose attention over anger is the title of another book chapter. So we already mentioned social media. Let's talk about the internet, social media, and freedom of speech, or how you say about illusion that we are all equal. So, what are the consequences of freedom of speech in today's world? So, in social media, in internet. I really like your sentence. What you like or hate is the question, not what you think or what you know. What you believe is the answer. Never mind what the truth is. So we are living in a world of post-truth, of fake news, of conspiracy theories. So let's talk about the consequences of free speech let's say in internet, in social media, but also in public space.
Lately, I'm thinking, we're not only living in a post-truth world, but also we're living in a post-good world, I think. What is good has become as partitioned, as damaged as what the truth is. And freedom of speech, actually, last few days ago, there was this Senegalese man, I don't know if you saw the photo, the Senegalese man just out from the water, and he's hugging the Red Cross volunteer, a young, in her 20s, a woman. And then this woman, the volunteer, shares the video and the photo, and then right away, social media divides into two. A part of it is, they hate this, act of kindness, and the other part thinks that this is the true representation of their country. It's happening in Spain and so on. So how can a very, very simple, extremely basic kind of act of kindness can create so much hatred? And why are we so free? Why there is such a freedom to hate so much and to advertise hate to such a degree? So freedom, there is this neoliberal understanding of freedom, which is freedom from. And I think freedom of speech is understood in that context mostly. Like, I can say anything, nobody can stop me. I am free from any kind of barrier when I'm speaking. But then this also creates a moral problem. So if you are free to hate and advertise hate, what is good? So I am actually wondering, first of all, let's do this. This is an unregulated communication sphere.
Yeah.
and it is free from regulations. In that sense, it's extreme freedom of speech, endless freedom of speech. But it is not free from the malaise, the evil of humankind. Obviously, we can see that. So I am thinking, I'm wondering actually, a man or a woman who is hating this picture of a black man, hugging a woman, what is good for these people? And is there a freedom of opposite goods in this world where opposite truths are taken, respected as different perspectives?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there are debates about banning comments below the texts on some portals. So what do you think? Is it a solution to ban, for example, hate speech in the context of every title, every article on the internet, or that's also then freedom of speech for somebody is in danger? So.
Well, you're right to ask, insistently on social media, because this is the new communication sphere where our politics, where our worldview, where our morality and everything is taking place, and everything is, being structured there. But then there is a place outside social media as well, and we might want to look at that space and what is happening there as well. I'm like, not only in Turkey, but in several other countries, even in the most, democratically matured ones, we see that today in real life, on the street, people cannot use their freedom of speech as much as they did like 20 years ago. So yeah, there is that space as well, and I think we have to look at that reality as well. It's not only through social media. Whereas, this is important. Social media should be regulated. But then first, in order to regulate it, we should nationalize or make it without shouldn't make it with owned by several people. It is a company. So the moral fundament of a country is absent. The only thing that a company needs to do is profit. So only if we can change that, we can change the social media. But until then, I think we have to work on a collective process in order to regulate this, internet, in order to regulate social media. And there are many people working on this at the moment in the United States, in Europe as well.
Yeah. I introduce you as a public intellectual, and I like very much your phrase that public intellectual is the gladiator of our times. Since you are coming from Turkey, but also giving lectures all around the world, do you have some advice, some tip how to be public intellectual in hostile environment? It's easy to be in Denmark, public intellectual, but
I don't know if I'm, nowadays they call me several different things, but I'm not sure I'm a public intellectual. First of all, I'm not very public lately, not only thanks to pandemic, but also.
But your books are public.
Yeah, of course. Actually, being a public intellectual, or the current state of a public intellectual is something I criticize. This, especially because of social media, especially because the television debates are constructed on this binary, arguments and so on. Public intellectual has become pretty much diminished to this megaphone of words that are popular in the public among the people. I don't know. I wasn't very successful at it. Being in a hostile environment.
Do you understand the fear of being public intellectual?
Of course. I've been threatened by, you know, several things for several years. And also, you know, lately, you know, before I left Turkey, the unpredictability of the situation became extremely unbearable as well. So yeah, I know the fear. I lived with the fear more than 10 years.
But then, opposite, for example, what do you think about lazy intellectuals in free world? Not doing their job, for example, in United States or in UK or in France, with rise of far right and racism. What do you think about that?
Well, like, first of all, I don't know the lazy ones. I only know the hardworking ones. But one thing is very clear to me, especially after 1970s. Intellectuals have been, especially critical, you know, critical intellectuals, have been confined to this cultural criticism, and this created industry, especially not only in intellectual life but also in universities, in, you know, media and so on. And I think they will pretty much, I mean, very soon will know that the world, the fragile world that they are living in, will not be there unless they started to, you know, understand what's going on, and, you know, try to protect their, even it's, you know, even if only their space, they will have to protect something. So they will have to fight.
Yeah, but then I will skip to one question. I was trying to think to ask you later, but when you are talking about the Piketty, then you mention term Brahmin left. So to describe well-educated progressives who had been disconnected from a working class. What do you think about that? So that there are many intellectuals today speaking with very strange language, and they are not understandable to waste of majority of people.
The other day I read in New Yorker something about Edward Said, and I learned that Edward Said called Derrida a dandy, a useless dandy or something. Okay, people did not read the book, so this is a very specific question, and it is about in the chapter about economy. And how,
choose enough over less.
Yeah, and it's one of the choices that I am proposing. And, you know, the main argument of the chapter is that we have to learn economy. We have to learn economy, because I remember myself in 2008 when the bubble, you know, burst and exploded, when there was the economic crisis. For the first time, I heard the word derivatives, which I should have known years ago. And then I know that right now people are not interested in economy as much as they should be, especially the progressive people. Speaking of Brahmin left and how we became confined to these cultural criticism, how we kind of retreated to that, let's say, our retreats, it didn't happen on our free will. And when I say we, I mean progressives of the world. Somehow, I think this is the success of propaganda. Nobody talks about 80s anymore, or nobody mentions it enough. The entire world was tortured, killed, exiled, beaten to this situation. In London, in Latin America, in Turkey, in other countries, there were leftist people who were kind of being the moral triangulation point of global politics, and they were dispersed by violence. So it is not like, you know, leftists one day when everything was okay, they thought, oh, why don't we just be Brahmin a little bit and then go to our villas in the seaside? It didn't happen like that. It was a big war on intellectual level, on streets and everywhere, on universities, media, and so on and so forth. People suffered because of this. And I am one of those people who were born to such a family. So I know how, you know, I told about it in the book as well. We suffered, you know, my family was suffering, and everybody like my family were suffering so much that we thought happiness, it was a sin. Like, only the cruel people can be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you cannot be happy.
Okay, we'll go back later on how much have you learned about economy till those days, and their rates. But about the strength, you said you're quoting your friend Asya.
Mm-hmm.
Strength is invisible. It is not puffed up muscles.
Yeah.
I'm a Cold War historian, and during the Cold War it was easy to define what is the strength, what is the power. Those who had, I don't know, a big army, who were wealthy. But what in today's world, how to define and recognize strength? Sometimes powerful or strong is person working in some IT industry, or it could be some pharmaceutical company. So what is it today? Do you think things changed a lot in last few decades in terms of strength and power?
By the way, I'm going to ask you a question as well after this one about Cold War. We have seen, I believe that there is a big arch from what happened in Seattle in end of 1990s until today, the shift in global perspective on Gaza. In between there is Tahrir, there is Gezi, Greece, Spain, and Black Lives Matter, obviously, and so on. I see a big arch that connects all these things. They didn't make revolutions as we know of, but they changed some perspective. And it all goes back to, I think, of course, beginning of 2000s when the World Social Forum was happening and so on, when people started saying globally that another world is possible. So they changed the perspective, they made people think, and they changed the fabric of politics, especially within their country and also globally. So in that sense, yes, I do think that now there is a bit of shift toward from Cold War power thing to strength. Otherwise, we couldn't have seen AOC in the United States talking about Gaza in American Congress, for instance. Or we couldn't have seen, all these politicians popping up here and there in Europe, in Turkey, and so on, talking, using almost the same language of World Social Forum and, that discourse of alternate world, another world is possible. So yeah, I think there is a shift in our minds, though, not in the real, what do you say, not in real politics maybe yet, but in our minds, yes. And it will show in real politics very soon, if you ask me. And Zagreb is one of the good examples, actually.
We hope.
No, we hope, and I don't know anything about Croatian politics. Okay. Seriously, I don't. But I saw something which made me think. First of all, you don't feel anything when there's an election in this country. It's so funny to me.
Yeah, and it's good.
No, there's nothing. I mean, Turkey would be like, everything would be happening. But I saw a man on a bicycle riding, and there was a tiny, not billboard, it was like a placard, Možemo placard, and the guy was, and I thought, this is going to change the world.
Yeah. First Croatia, and then
the smallness, the meekness, the
grassroots,
yeah.
Okay, another topic is women. You talk so many very interesting thoughts about the women, but I'm curious about the one sentence. As these images of darkness and light collide, the 21st century already looks like a worldwide war zone on the eve of the final decisive battle. What is the decisive battle, and what should it look like, and what will be the results of that decisive battle?
Okay. First of all, the chapter is about.
The chapter is choose strength over power.
Yeah, but it is also about female versus radical male.
That will be my another question, or I can ask you.
Yeah.
You are confronting radical male and collective female, and the motto of radical male is power means breaking, ruling means controlling, existing means possessing. What's your opinion of women supporting radical male?
Yeah.
Of those who support the
first of all,
division of roles into male and female.
I'm going to look like old school leftists, Marxists, but I'm going to make an analysis now before starting this answer. No, I'm like, what do I mean by radical male? That's what I wanted to say. I do think that it is obvious that we are going through a collapse of a system. The capitalism, as we know it, will not work, is not working, and we see all the morbid symptoms of a collapsing system. And that is why there is also a crisis of manhood, crisis of the male all over the world. That's why all these, authoritarian leaders, all these new fascists, as I call them, have something to do with misogyny. And they always attack women first, along with journalists. And it is not a coincidence. Whenever there's a system collapse, it's always the women. I mean, it's like witch burning with different versions. Now it's on digital level, for instance. So when I say radical male, I mean this authoritarian ideals that is backward, that is against female. But when I say female, I don't mean women.
Yeah.
I mean all female, which is half of the men. So. And I do think that these new fascists are attacking the female in the men as well. And when I say female, compassionate, kindness, generosity, and, all the nice things, of course. So when we see it like this, I think it is only natural that we conclude there is a war. It is, the leaders of this war is Modi, Trump, Boris Johnson, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I'm sure there is one person in this country who would, symbolize that, and so on and so forth.
So you can see the world after that final battle.
Excuse me?
Could you see? Could you imagine the
after
world
the battle?
During our lifetime, or?
Yeah, I am good at imagining these things, and I imagine. Well, there's a bit in that book as well. I mean, I was, going around those markets when socialism collapsed. There were many markets, Russian markets, as we call them in Turkey, and now I can imagine the, fall of this system and afterwards.
I hope you're right.
It's good. It's going to be a nice flea market.
Yeah.
There's going to be too many stuff there that we don't need.
You mentioned, and I maybe don't agree with using the term fascism. Do you think the too frequent use of the term fascism devalues its meaning? Maybe if the lack of freedom of speech, if a hostile attitude towards the opposition, the lack of sexual freedom, unequal position of women in society is fascism, then all communist states were fascist states.
Okay, actually now it's time for me to ask you the question that I wanted to ask. You are working on after Second World War consequences and Cold War and so on and so forth. Do you think that fascism was erased from Europe after Second World War?
That's the problem of definition. So if
Nazis were somehow.
No, if we are talking about totalitarianism and dictatorships and I don't know, lack of freedom, then it's one point of view. As I mentioned, in Yugoslavia, women are not equal to men in high rank position in factories or I don't know, in many areas of life, or freedom of speech or sexual freedom. So but it wasn't fascism. So what is fascism for you? For me, fascism is fascism in 20s and 30s, and of course in the 40s. I don't think that all ugly things from that period were conquered, but I'm not sure if.
Well, when I say fascism, I look at the relation between capital
Okay.
and the oppressive political power.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to me completely different than the Nazi Germany. That's why I call it the new form of fascism, which is an entertaining form. I mean, like, you cannot get enough of it because it's funny, because, you know, funny guys and so on, you know, or, you know, yeah, layman kind of leaders. But what I, you know, what I consider, why I say fascism is because of this. I look at the very heart of the mechanism, and what I see is the relation between capital and oppressive political power is not different than Nazi Germany.
It's a good point, yeah. Okay, talking about the capitalism, you describe yourself as a strong critic of capitalism. What is the alternative?
Well, I am not strong, but my criticism is.
Yeah, but okay. What do you think is alternative? Is it rejecting of capitalism or different capitalism with human face?
Yeah, like 1950s capitalism. You know,
or capitalism like Marx saw it.
Yeah.
He was talking about the capitalism, but different. And so.
Well. This is going to change for sure. This cannot go on. I mean, like, even the privileged ones can see that it's not going. The echo chambers of capitalism in Davos, I mean, like, there are reports that the system cannot hold anymore. So it's going to be a different thing. I don't believe in all-out revolution. I'm very sorry to say this, but there will be transformation, I think, to our social state.
Yeah, you're mentioning a very interesting thing for me, this economic activism in UK.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, yeah. It could be something, maybe
yeah,
some transitional phase, but...
Yeah, it is something that I value so much, so that the left, the progressives, can have a real relation with capital. So how are they going to use it? How they are going to operate with money? I think we have to exercise on that, because we lost our, you know, kind of mojo with capital, therefore true power. Yeah,
and it brings us to the topic of Yugoslav self-management. You are you're saying, you use quotes to describe the difference between Yugoslav socialist economy and today's capitalist. In Croatia, your friend, or I don't know, you were shopping something, beds or whatever, and she said we had less variety, but we had enough things.
Yeah.
But later on the text, you mentioned shopping in Trieste, in Trst. Isn't exactly that, shopping in Trieste, counter-argument for this thesis? Because people Trieste in Italy.
No, it was in Zagreb, actually.
Yeah. But you said that...
Hi, she was shopping.
Yeah, she said we were going to shop. So you said in Yugoslavia, we don't have variety, but we have enough. But then we all went to Trieste to buy. Why? Because we didn't have enough here. Yeah,
maybe. But then it is good exercise, you know, a mental exercise in terms of economy, to think of enough. Because Turkey was also a mixed economy until 1980 military coup. And there was a planning process, economic planning process. There were regulations and so on. Was it great? No, it wasn't great. But then there was the idea of enough, calculating the enough. And so I value that, and I don't think it as a back step to think about regulation, planning, economy planning, and so on. That's why I wanted to tell that story, you know, the idea of it.
I'm very happy that you mentioned that, because it opened one question we are not talking about in Croatia today, because we are rejecting our past. Of course, they were very bad episodes, and a lot of stuff we should try not to do again. But then there is difference between theory and practice, you know, in Yugoslavia. Because when you are talking about this self-management and you say where enough is calculated by the people democratically, it seems very nice in theory, but it wasn't like that in practice all the time. But yeah, I agree. Even today in Croatia, people far right, they said, oh, communism and fascism is the same because of, I don't know, prisons and lack of freedom. But the difference is exactly what you point. In theory, it could be a nice world. In fascism, it can't be, even in theory.
Yeah.
It's racism, it's, I don't know, inequality, Übermensch, and whatever.
What is similar is totalitarian, you know, perspective, of course. I'm not talking about Yugoslavia, but, you know, when you look at Soviets and so on. But then, there is a chapter in the book about reality. Again, what is reality and what it includes. And I talk about this aspirations of humankind, human history, the aspirations during the human history. Yugoslavia was an aspiration, like many other aspirations. It was a plan, it was a project, and it was a good intended project. It was actually a brilliant project. Experiment, whatever, experience as well. But it is real. That theory is real. It is, you cannot, you know, erase that from history. It is included in history.
It's possible, believe me. Yeah, to erase history.
Yeah, of course, I know that. But yeah. Well, actually, not of course. Now I'm going to correct myself. I do believe that even though the powerful writes the end story and the history as well, I do think that, you know, truth has a habit of popping up whenever it's, you know, it's much, when it's least expected.
And yeah, that's the mission of public intellectuals also. Yeah.
Hopefully so.
For the end, why Croatia? You are traveling all around the world, see so many nice places, nicer buildings, beautiful beaches, so you could choose to live, I don't know, wherever you want.
Yeah.
Why Croatia?
When I first asked for the residency permit in Zagreb, the police woman, the officer asked me, why do you want to live in Zagreb? And I said, I like Croatia, I like Zagreb. And she said, huh. Yeah. Like, I was shocked, but I really meant it. There's a story, it's about Petra finding me, publishing me, and then Petra making me buy an apartment here, and then I find myself here. I didn't actually plan to live in Zagreb. I came after the coup attempt for a few days, and then I stayed. But then why I stayed, kept on staying in Zagreb is another question. I think it is the optimum geographical location for several reasons. It is not completely Europe, it's not Balkans, it is close to Turkey, it is close to Europe, and it is, yeah, it's like that, and I treat the place as a non-place, as somewhere I work, and so on. But then lately I noticed that I was talking to a friend who also had to go outside Turkey, somewhere else, and he was telling me, now I know everything in this country, and he's working in that country. We you know, left the country almost at the same time, and I have friends. I'm a local here, and he said that, and I thought, no, I cannot be a local in Zagreb. I am not a local in Zagreb. But then I thought, was I local in Izmir? Was I local in Ankara, where I studied? Was I local in Istanbul? No, I wasn't local there either. So I am not a local in general, I think, as nature. But this is the place I call home. Okay. Now.
Ece, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for this book and for all other books you already written, but also the next book we are waiting for.
Thank you so much. This was so nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.